Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here and see you all here physically and as well as virtually. Jonathan and I are going to introduce ourselves and sort of walk you through. We're going to give you a sneak peek of a book we're working on, it's a real pleasure to be at the Howard Zinn Book Fair. This is our second time here, and so my name is Stephen Mayers, and I teach English here at City College here, actually at the Mission campus mostly these days, where I'm co-coordinating the Puente program, helping disadvantaged students get into universities. And I have been interested in Latin America and Latin American literature. I'm an English teacher, actually, and have been doing oral history research for about 15 or 20 years. I started interviewing people from Central America for my dissertation project, and I was talking to a lot of people who survived the wars, right, in the 1980s. And then I got involved with this organization called Voice of Witness. And Voice of Witness, for those of you who don't know, is an organization that used to be 2 blocks from here. Now they're looking for a home. They're sort of virtual, but they are an organization dedicated to oral history, and they have a book series as well as an educational program. They're actually co-founded by Dave Eggers, the local novelist. And so I started having Voice of Witness come into my classroom and doing oral history research with my students. And I started thinking around 2012, maybe 2011. Gosh, it would be great to do a collection of oral histories on all the young children I hear about crossing the southern border from Central America, and I hear stories about kids on trains and things like that. So I sort of put it off when Julian was born. Not your fault, Julian. And got married. And then I met Jonathan Freedman here, who was doing some workshops in our City College library. And the guy who ran the lab said, you got to meet Jonathan Freedman. He has a Pulitzer Prize in journalism and has actually done a lot of writing about people on the border. And we met and we decided to launch into this project called Solito Solita, which is a collection of oral histories published in 2019 by Haymarket Books out of Chicago, who are downstairs, part of the Voice of Witness book series on human rights. And Voice of Witness is also downstairs. So you guys should visit both of those tables. And we traveled around Mexico and the US interviewing young kids and mothers who traveled with young kids coming from Central America, and are very interested in refugee stories. So I think I'll turn it over to Jonathan now.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for being here. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and since most of you, before you were born in the 1980s, I started writing editorials about immigration with a focus on human rights on the border, San Diego. And what's amazing is that by telling stories of people who are crossing the border, and by telling stories of people who are involved in the many facets of this issue, and then advocating humane and just immigration law, I was able, or we were able, over a 6-year period to convince Congress and actually President Reagan at the time to pass the Immigration Reform Act of 1986. And what was significant about it from my point of view especially was that we advocated for what we called amnesty or legalization. And as a result of this, 1.7 million undocumented people got legal status to live in this country. And many of sometimes somebody will come up to me and say, I heard you had something to do with this. And for that, I was awarded the 1987 Pulitzer Prize for Distinguished Editorial Writing. And then Stephen and I met up many years later for Solito Solita, which means alone, alone. Stephen, why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we started interviewing people from Central America and hearing stories about why people come. You know, a lot of people came fleeing the maras, right? The big gangs, the MS-13 and the 18. And we talked to people whose parents had survived the war there, right? Which of course the US had a role in as well. We also talked to people affected by climate change, you know, and hadn't thought, you know, it wasn't a big part of the book, but definitely some people, you know, were affected by droughts and kind of hurricanes of increasing powers. And you know, one thing that, you know, we really believe, like Jonathan said, in oral histories and in listening to people tell their stories in kind of long form. You know, we often hear people's stories, you know, like little snippets of people's stories kind of shoehorned into other articles on news, but we don't always have the opportunity to really listen to people who are affected most by our foreign policy, by history, and by climate change. So anyway, after this book was published, we first of all started doing a lot of events around the country, and kind of like now we call our website and our organization S2S, Solito de Solidarity. Solito, the title came from Adan, a guy from Guatemala City who fled, who got stabbed by the gang, whose mother was murdered in front of his eyes when he was a small child, running a small store. And we kept asking him, so did you meet anyone? Did you travel with anyone on the way here? And he kept on saying, no, solito. And solito means alone, solo. But the ito is that little diminutive, you know, kind of humble sort of tag on the end. And we just thought it had a nice ring to it. And then Solito de Solidarity has been kind of become our mission. You know, we want to bring people into gatherings such as this. We believe in telling stories and sharing stories and sitting in circles as often as possible and listening. And so we do a lot of listening and really believe in that. So after the book was published, we decided, let's do another book, you know, and we were talking about a lot of different types of topics, but the one that kept coming up the most was climate change and how, you know, we all know how many people are migrating in the world these days. Climate change is just, you know, adds a whole nother level to this, which basically complexifies all the existing push factors and pull factors that people face. So we decided to, let's go interview some people who are fleeing climate change. The first people we went to go see, and let me know. Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit and then you can introduce the questions and stuff like that, Jonathan. So we decided to go in the beginning of 2000, actually on New Year's Day in 2020. To interview and travel around Yucatán, Mexico with Pedro Ucbe. And Pedro, we'll talk about him in a split second, and then and you guys will meet him just in a video. And we traveled around the Yucatán talking to him about people who are fleeing the Maya way of life on the milpa, on the small farm, and how climate change is affecting them, and some of the work they were doing to advocate and fight for Maya territory. Became very inspired by his work. He's a poet and activist, and I'll be introducing him more. Then our idea was to sort of travel around the world and interview people from different regions, and then COVID hit. Hey, come on in. Good to see you, Christian. Sit wherever you can. And then COVID hit, of course, right? And we were like, oh wow, that put a sort of an unexpected barrier in, you know, with our project. We're like, so what are we gonna do? And then we decided, well, you know, with technology, maybe at least we could, like, you know, start Zooming with some people. So kind of through Jonathan actually doing some research, we ended up meeting Seifu, who's here today with us, Seifu Assegid. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So just wanted to talk a little bit about, retrace our steps here. Solito was about crossing borders with youth refugees from Central America. And it had a big impact, that book. It came at the time when Trump had military coming out at the border, separating families. And we think that the voices of the people in that book, 15 voices, raise your hand over here, as Christian, they had a big impact, and telling stories had a big impact on them.
Christian here shared his story in the book. He came from Tegucigalpa. Yes. Thank you for coming.
So I wanted to just talk about the differences between these two books. The first book is 15 narratives, first person, told by the people themselves, incredible stories. And I think they had a big impact. So what we wanted to do next, as Stephen was talking about, well, we had a little bit of ambition here. We thought, well, if we were focusing on youth refugees from Central America, why not reach out around the world, slightly ambitious, and listen to voices of people who are displaced by climate change. That was our idea. And so we launched this project on New Year's Day, 2020, went to Yucatán. And then I wanted to just read the fundamental questions that we're asking people. We're asking the displaced people, the most fundamental human questions. How have they survived? What forces them to leave their homes? What are their journeys like? How are their experiences crossing borders? What is life like where they currently reside? And specifically, how do Maya farmers in the Yucatan, Mexico's land is being encroached upon by destructive mega projects? How do they protect their territory, their culture, and their way of life? How do historically nomadic herders who have been driven by drought to farm in the highlands of Oromia in Ethiopia adapt to overpopulation while trying to maintain their cultural identity? And Seifu from Ethiopia will be talking about that. How do firefighters in Santa Cruz County, California, fight the largest wildfire in 100 years of history while masking up for COVID? How do coastal fishermen and farmers in the Asia Pacific adapt and respond to warming seas? And we'll be having Lipi talking about that from Bangladesh. She's actually at the UN Climate Conference right now in Dubai. We're seeking wisdom from the displaced, those who can come to their aid, as well as those who are fighting for the right to stay home and defend the land. We hope their stories will catalyze questions in readers. Since humans are causing these environmental crises, how can humans work to create change? What kinds of legal, economic, and social and moral paradigm shifts would need to take place to ensure human rights are respected? How can we re-envision our relationship with nature? Just one thing also, this new book is not a series of 15 narratives. It's a journey that begins in the Yucatan and proceeds over 3 years. And it involves synchronicity, what's happening in one part of the world, people we're talking to, what's happening to another part at the same time. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So so basically when COVID hit, we started interviewing Seifu every Tuesday morning from our kitchen tables, and we went on throughout the pandemic on this kind of virtual travel around the world. And then we ended up meeting a guy named Prabal who works with displaced people with an organization we'll tell you about. And then we met another woman named Lipi, who works for another great organization in Bangladesh as well. And then and also we when the fires came and hit us, this book that was kind of about them, we were trying to sort of stay out of, we did have this sort of we narrator that took the reader through, it takes the readers through the stories and kind of embeds their first person narratives in a larger narrative. We're trying to make it very clear that it's not the royal we were speaking from here, but just simply Jonathan and Stephen, taking you guys on a little bit of a trip. And it was really a book about them. And then it became a little bit, there was an inward turn when COVID hit, and we sort of realized, hey, we're all sort of environmentally displaced right now by COVID. And then the fires hit too. And, you guys here who live in the Bay Area will probably remember that orange day. That's actually comes into the story here. That was a day on which the fires were raging, the sky was orange, and COVID was also raging. And I don't know about you guys, but we definitely, I felt nature was trying to tell us something on that day. I think birds were dropping out of the skies that same week as well. So if it wasn't biblical, I don't know. So the story took an inward turn as we continued to travel. So today, Jonathan and I are going to sort of walk you through the sneak peek of this book that we're working on that should probably be finished sometime in the spring. We have some publishers interested, and we're still sort of finalizing a publisher. In fact, we have some book proposals to hand out downstairs even today a little bit as well. And I'm going to introduce you to Pedro first, and then and talk a little bit about our time in the Yucatan. And then Jonathan is going to introduce you to Seifu, and Seifu, we're going to talk with him. Then Jonathan's also going to introduce you to our research we've done here in the Santa Cruz Mountain, and Pascal hopefully will be here by then.
He's coming.
And then I'm going to talk about the final step of this, our sort of 2-year journey, which the book mostly focuses on, where we went to Scotland to COP26, right? And right now, of course, COP28 is going on, and these Conference of the Party. I think that's one question that you all can think about, is if we had the power to give a message to some of the world leaders who are meeting today and this week in Dubai of all places, what would you tell them? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add that in Glasgow, Scotland, we met Ibrahim, who's joining us from Africa.
Yeah. Also, who does amazing work that he'll talk about, and is also at the COP28 right now. So we have at least one, but hopefully 2 people from COP28. So great. So let me introduce you to Pedro. So we went down on New Year's Day, and Yucatan is a beautiful place. And Pedro Ukbe took us around. He, interestingly enough, had, let me just, here we go. I just want to, okay, so let's go to videos here. Pedro Ukbe is a poet and an activist, and he leads an organization called Much Shimbal, Defenders of Maya Territory. About 10 days before Jonathan and I were going to fly there on New Year's Day, he received a death threat. A pretty palpable death threat that named his wife or ex-wife and children, saying, stop your babbling, or and please leave. So he decided not to leave. He thought that he would be best off staying, and we were a little bit nervous about going down, but decided to go down. But he basically, with his organization, Muchimbal, does a lot of educating in Maya Pueblos about indigenous rights. Hey, Pascal and Belle. Belle's here too. Come on in. Why don't you, just right here, have a seat, Pascal. Well, good to see you. And they basically sign a lot of petitions and have delayed a lot of mega projects. The mega projects in the Yucatan involve pig farms, this is Pedro here. And they also involve solar and wind energy, which, is good, but not done the way that so-called sustainable energy is often done in the world, where large companies go in and raise, acres and acres of old growth forest, and then put up tons of wind and solar projects, and then make a bunch of money on it, selling it back to the pueblos. So this is why he received a death threat. I'm just going to play this 1-minute video so you can hear his voice, and then talk a little bit more about him. We're going to sort of walk you through the book here. Let me see if I can. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Bishabelesh Inkabai Pedro Ukbe Ukahnalilen Bukzots Yucatan, Mexico, Kimakin Wall in Sekbaltawetelesh Tile Ekina, Lemeyah King Betik Woitin Kahala, in Takpahal Ichilumpe Molai Kukabaintik Much Shimbal, Tialkapatak Kalantik Le Klumila Tumen Uyabile Nukuch Mako Kutalo Ubeto Nukuch Meigobo, Danukinsko Bekasho, Danukinsko Balcheo, Danukinsko Ikelkab, Danukinsko Lelolobo, Tontune Bashkbetike, Kalanti Klum Tulakle Masho, Maya Winiko, Maya Mako, Yetel Tulakle Masho, Meya Koblekasho, Tak Kalantik Le Klumila, Letik Betik, Lebetke, Kimakiwol, Upastalin Waitesh, Bash, Meik Betikete, Bish, Kmuchkubatiak, Betik Lemeyaha, Yetel Kalantik Lumil.
Pedro's amazing, and his partner Haisel, who we just zoomed in at the Maya Festival here at the Mission Campus, is an amazing photographer and an amazing speaker for the rights of Maya people to defend their land. So the biggest mega project they're defending their land against now and their people against is the so-called Tren Maya, which you might have read about, the so-called Mayan train, which the Mexican president is pushing through. It's going to go right through the last forest, the last real forest in Mexico, Calakmul, the last place where a jaguar lives. But the president assures us that it's actually not going to affect nature somehow. It's going to go right through the forest, but it's going to be totally fine. I just wanted to read a short piece, and Jonathan, feel free to after that, chime in on anything about the Yucatan that we've met. But we've learned a lot from the Yucatan. Our book started off to be about people fleeing climate change, but has grown into a book also about people who are resisting climate change and staying home, right? And there's a great book called The Right to Home by Bacon, and we're starting to see how people like Pedro, by staying home is actually an act of resistance, right? Many people are forced to flee in their homelands by U.S. corporations and other corporations and U.S. foreign policy and U.S. military and others. And ironically, flee us in their homelands to us, the sort of metropolis, to live here. Pedro decided to work with the church and worked with the church for many years. He was actually one of the first, he worked on a team to translate the first Bible into Yucatec Mayan. It was pretty interesting. And then he had a big epiphany, anti-Christian epiphany about the church, and decided to return to his milpa, where he grew up. He grew up on the traditional small farm, which Maya people have been doing for years. And he's trying to help people resist migration, resist going to either Cancun or like the tourist places, or come to the U.S. and stay and keep farming. And we should tell them about what they're doing with corn. But first, I want to just read a beautiful passage from when he took us to the milpa, and we got to see their work there. This is how he describes waking up on the milpa when he was a kid. He grew up speaking Maya only. A dawn in the pueblo, in the milpa on which we lived, was a dawn with a silence impregnated with the songs of many birds. This bird song in the Maya language is converted into words. It seems that we are communicating with the animals. It seems that through their voices, the gods tell us what we have to do. For example, when we hear the song of a bird that in Mayan we call the tutsui, which starts to sing and sing and sing and sing, it wants to tell us that the rainy season is very near. In 2 or 3 days, the rain falls and the season begins. So on this morning, we begin to prepare the seeds because we are going to plant. We all prepare the leek, which is a calabash, which we put the seeds into. We select the seeds for planting. We walk around the milpa to figure out where we are going to plant, because the milpa is not a monoculture. The milpa is a diversified crop of maize, calabash, beans, ibes, espelon, macal, cucumber, tomatoes, chiles, onion. We plant everything in the milpa because that is where we get everything that we eat. We grow for the family, but if there's surplus, we sell the surplus for other things we need. The milpa is also the school, the plaza, the most precious place that we have, because in the milpa, there is not only food, but learning. It is there that we learn the names of the plants. It is there that we learn the names of the animals. It is there that we learn what plants cure, what plants harm, those that sting, the snakes. It is there that we hunt deer and wild turkeys that we eat. So the milpa is the place we create life and the place we are recreated by life. It's highly important to rotate the crops in the milpa and diversify them. This is what we live daily, and what I lived until I was 18. And while we were there, he introduced us to a guy named Dino, who actually passed away, unfortunately. And these are milperos or farmers on the milpa, and they are suffering from drought, right? So it's hard to get by in the milpa, and a lot of, that adds to all the other reasons why people migrate, right? And what they've done, first of all, is they've protected the corn, the organic corn seed. and there's a lot of pesticides coming in and non-organic corn seeds, and there's a lot of marketing going on saying, hey, you got to use this fake stuff because you're going to like produce way more. So they're like working with these seed fairs and trying to get the organic original Mayan corn to survive. And then what they're also doing is they're kind of like cross-fertilizing the organic Mayan corn, and they've developed a corn that will grow in 1 month, a corn that will grow in a month and a half, another corn that will grow in 2 months. So if they have drought, they can get a quick harvest in 1 month. And the ears aren't as big as the other ones, but at least they have some corn, which we thought that was a super fascinating way of combining, indigenous wisdom with science. There's this other guy named El Arush who has a radio show, and he studied agronomy up near Mexico City at the university, and he brings together the Caño Abuela. Is that how you say it? It's the old like Spanish way of predicting the weather, and does all this incredible stuff where they use spreadsheets to like actually keep track of when certain birds come out, and also the weather all over the state to predict when it's like he calls it Maya science. It's basically like European science mixing with Maya knowledge. Really, really cool. So that's a little bit about what we learned in Mexico, in the Yucatan. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
So I urge you all now to on your screen, look at the next speaker, whose name is Seifu Assegid. And Seifu, no sooner than we came back from Mexico with this beginning of our journey, and we were going to continue traveling around to different places, when COVID lockdown hit. And we were all isolated. People in this room are still wearing masks. We were all isolated, as you know, and existentially isolated. People were dying. And we thought it was very, very important. Just how can we reach out when we couldn't travel? How could we meet people? Because we always meet people we didn't know before. So luckily, through contacts with Save the Children, we were led to Save the Children in Ethiopia. They have a very, very active program. And we met this gentleman, Seifu Assegid, who is a humanitarian, has worked in this field. Just briefly, Seifu was a war orphan from a forgotten war in Africa. And as a child, he was taken to Cuba to be educated. It's a long story, you'll have to read the book. Coming back from Cuba, he landed back in Ethiopia. His mother didn't even recognize him and sent him to live with his sister, who was a nurse. And she was a nurse in Alamada, which was ground zero for the famine, the great Ethiopian famine, the Live Aid con. And there he's very, very bright, as you'll see. He tested very high on a test and was actually enrolled in high school. But before he did that, he came into this town from Cuba to where his mother lives, to Alamada, and suddenly saw hundreds of people dying, dead people, mothers cradling children. And he volunteered to begin helping them. He got a degree, and right after that, he got a degree. He began working with health issues, water issues in Ethiopia. And about 15 years ago, Seifu, you can correct me on this, he began working for Save the Children. And one last thing, when his father died, and his mother had no means of supporting him, so they went to a village, her village, up in the mid-highlands of Ethiopia, called Lalo. And the only way they could survive was cutting down the trees and making charcoal to sell. And now he regrets that, because in a small way, they were part of this larger thing that has deforested Ethiopia. And as part of the journey, Seifu returned to the town of his family in Lalo after 37 years. And that's part of his story. But now I'd like to ask you, Seifu, you're very active. Would you just introduce yourself and say hi?
Sorry, and can you unmute yourself? Yeah, I hope you can.
Yeah,
Welcome, Seifu.
yeah. Thank you very much, Jonathan and Steve, for this opportunity to be here in this event, very important event for today. So just to give you a brief introduction of myself, my name is Seifu Assegid, and I'm from Ethiopia. And as Jonathan mentioned and introduced, I'm working for Save the Children for the past 8. It's only 3 years that you missed. So it's almost 18 years that I'm working with Save the Children. And for the past 10 years, I'm working as a communication specialist for Save the Children. And I had an opportunity to travel all over Ethiopia, where I will be gathering content related to drought, climate change, war, conflict, and other climates that affects the community and what Save the Children is doing. So with that, I have been able to share some of the stories, live stories from the ground, from the field, where I am meeting many people who have been affected by the drought and been displaced in their own country. And some of them trying to migrate to the Gulf and other countries, and, experiencing this hardship that we see it in the daily news, that some of them die, in the sea, in the ocean, while trying to escape poverty and for better life. So these stories, hopefully, Steve and Jonathan have captured for the last 3 years, as mentioned by that we were meeting. We had together. So this is what I would like to say to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And oh, sorry, you want to ask why don't you ask the next question? And
Yeah.
I can pull up slides if you want.
Okay, so Seifu, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Seifu?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So one of the things we learned from listening to people on the journey is that climate change, instead of people, which we had hoped for, people focusing on this common threat to humanity on life, there has been conflict, and we know about 2 famous conflicts, but in Ethiopia, an old conflict broke out into civil war in Tigray, in a place called Tigray. Maybe you've heard about that. And of all the conflicts that have happened since then, including Ukraine and recently in Palestine, more people died in the conflict in Tigray. So you've just come back from Tigray. Seifu, could you tell us
Yes.
about how conflict and climate change intersect in the lives of the people you've spoken to just recently in Tigray?
Thank you, Jonathan.
And Seifu, would you like me to put the slides up?
Yeah, that would be very great. No,
Sure.
anyway,
Yeah, I'll share the screen and I'll put the slides up now.
yeah. Just before I go into the slide, I just would like to share. Yeah, I can see it. As Jonathan mentioned, I have recently traveled to the Tigray region, in the northern part, which is a region most known by area of conflict and drought, at the same time, a very rugged topography, highland, and very small size of land is being plowed or agriculture or suitable for agriculture. So being that, again, a conflict has erupted about 3 years ago, and that lasted for 2 years. And this conflict has exacerbated, the situation more critical. And besides that, the majority of the population is based on assistance being provided by the people, by the government and other agencies.
Oh, thanks.
And this assistance or food aid has been interrupted for quite some time, 8 months. And during my visit, what I witnessed was that people are in a very desperate need of assistance and aid, food. And this further has been exacerbated by unexpected rain that fall, in October and November. The last 2 months, the area received above average rainfall, which was not expected to be, this time. It's not a rainy season. It was a harvest time, and all the matured crops on the field has been greatly affected or damaged by this frost and rain, heavy rain. So due agriculture still being very backward, traditional one, subsistence farming was the only means for many of the households to survive for their livelihood. And being this the first income for the families, and the aid being interrupted and conflict affecting all these people, you can see how conflict intersects with drought or lack of rainfall. So this prolonged conflict has already affected many of the families, and they have lost all their livelihoods due to the conflict, and even some of the harvest has been burned out. And this family, as you can see from the picture, a farmer who is trying to harvest a teff, which is a common staple food for Ethiopia, he grown this teff with what we have provided. He was provided with this, improved seedling by Save the Children as a support, and he was able at least to grow this teff to at least feed his families. But before he harvested, a rain was, affecting him, and he's really worried that the yield from the crop that he's harvesting will be automatically declined because of the unexpected frost and also at the same time rainfall. So Haile Michael is the name of this father. He had 5 children of himself with his wife, and only this year that he had been able to send 2 of his kids out of the 5 children to the school, and he was unable to afford, for their uniform, for the school materials, because he didn't harvest for the past 2 years due to the war and the conflict in the area. And this time, when he tried to harvest this crop, now the climate change, as you can see, unexpectedly, a heavy rainfall has fallen and affected him, and he is unable to provide his families. And yet, no assistance, no food aid that was expected to be delivered by a World Food Program and the USAID was interrupted due to aid diversion, because the aid that was supposed to be provided to the people was looted by officials who were expected to assist their own people. And due to that, the World Food and the US government has decided to stop the food aid to these needy people. But it's not only affecting the government, but it's directly affecting these people, because they have not harvested. In the last 2 years, they have not had any agricultural inputs like fertilizers were not there. So even those who tried to produce the crops were unable to produce enough because of the lack of these agricultural inputs, and also no even seedlings. And those even who have been piled in this, the crops that have been already harvested are being affected by the heavy rains that is falling in the area, and that will automatically affect the yield. And also they will not have at least to continue seedling, because they cannot have a good quality seed out of what they are harvesting currently. So this climate change and conflict, I have seen it myself on my own eye, I have witnessed it, has great intersection, and it will devastate the people's lives and livelihoods. So a relief has to continue, in my view, and we have to be a voice to the voiceless in order for at least these people to rehabilitate, and resume their normal life by providing them some support. So this is what I wanted to share with you. So Haile Mikhail's story tells how many thousands of people are still struggling to survive, and even many are dying due to hunger. At this, the 21st century, we don't expect people to die due to hunger, but still people are dying. Close to 1,500 people have been reported to have died due to hunger, due to lack of food in the Tigray region alone. And other Ethiopian parts are also experiencing similar situation. So I think that will give you some highlights on what I have already witnessed in the Tigray region when I visited them very recently. Thank you very much.
Oh, Seifu, thank you so much. And his stories, which he led us literally with him on these journeys that he goes into all parts of Ethiopia. He was kind enough to share us videos and audios and interviewing people. So in our book, it's as if we're traveling to these regions and talking to people. Seifu, you're magnificent. Thank you so much. I'd like to now introduce someone who's right here, Pascal. Say hi.
Good morning.
Oh, you're actually muted, Jonathan, I think. Yeah, let's see if you can unmute yourself, Pascal. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Well, that's good.
We're having technical things.
1 second. I'm not sure, Seifu, if you've muted yourself, but please do if you can. Okay, let's try that again.
Okay, I want to
It's you.
From here to
So I have to turn mine all the way off. And then turn yours up. Thank you.
okay, let's try again.
Can you turn the volume up here?
No, of course, but as long as they can hear them on Zoom too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. This mic's on. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, you don't need
his audio.
Yeah, you don't need to have. You don't need to have your mic on.
Okay, all right, all right.
Thank you.
Let me just
Hey,
introduce
making it. Thank you.
Yeah.
important, extraordinary person. So we just been to Ethiopia, and then in August of 2020, which you will all remember, the CZU, the lightning strike wildfires struck California, all across California. And one day we're interviewing Seifu in Ethiopia. The next day, Santa Cruz wildfire begins. That's what we're talking about, synchronicity in our book, is the story moves synchronously from one event for climate change to another. And so I want to introduce an extraordinary person, Pascal, who was a technical scientist and in Silicon Valley. He loves nature. He bought a piece of land in a redwood forest in the Santa Cruz, high in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And as he tells it, there was a moment.
Yeah, I got it.
There was a moment of when he was sleeping outdoors in a sleeping park, in a sleeping loft outside his house, when this incredible wind, wasn't it really a wind? It was like the atmosphere was moving, like a freight train, the sound. And then overhead, thousands, literally thousands of lightning strikes right above him and right above the forest. And so we were not able to meet Pascal or the people in the Santa Cruz Mountains for nearly a year after the fire. But the CAL FIRE fire chief finally gave a presentation from his point of view about what happened in the mountains and how the role of the fire, CAL FIRE. But Pascal has his own incredible story as a volunteer fireman fighting a team, and then things happened. They abandoned ship, the station near his house abandoned ship, and he had to go back to his own neighborhood and fight the fires by himself. And ultimately ended up, he and others saved 24 homes. Pascal, what does your experience contending with the fires around your home tell you about the relationship between human beings and the forest?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I want to go back to what Seifu just said about giving voice to the voiceless, which I think is such a beautiful thing. My situation is very different. I live in a very privileged area, and oftentimes we see nature as a commodity, as something to dominate and tame and control. And so this fire, I think, gave us a lot of humility in the way we understand nature. So that's really the big takeaway learning from this fire.
So could you just tell us a little bit about one point in the when the fire was going out of control, people were abandoning, the CAL FIRE was abandoning the post, and what were you doing at that time to fight the fire with the team and then on your own? Just give us a taste of what that was like.
Yes, so the first few days of the fire, we still had some organization, but then as we lost power and all forms of radio and structure, the fire became overwhelming. So there were really two phases. The first few days were trying to do something and trying to, as a group, to protect houses. And then the decision was made to evacuate and to stop firefighting activities because it became too dangerous. So then came the second phase where we had civilians or people like me. I was a firefighter, but then I became a civilian. And then I went back to my neighborhood to fight the fire as a civilian. So it was a two-stage event. The first few days of fire, we were in teams and fighting fires, and then I was by myself with, a rake and McCloud, which is a tool we use for fighting fires. And I was driving from house to house in my neighborhood, raking, trying to push away the embers and making the perimeter around each house. And so it was kind of a long night and day. And so there was this feeling of everything collapsed around. I didn't even know which day it was because during the day we have a lot of smoke, so it's very dark. During the day, I think we probably remember those days when, and at night things were bright because of the fire. So it was about the same amount of light, night and day, to the point where it became difficult to understand like which hour of the day it is. Yes.
So
You spent weeks, maybe, right?
weeks.
Yeah, we had so the fire was very intense for a little while, and then we had spot fires for a month. In my area, the last spot fire put out was in November, from August till November. But in other areas, we had spot fires coming back up until February of the year after.
Yeah. So you were barely sleeping, and when you were sleeping, you were lying on the ground, right, with the fire all around you, and you woke up at one point lying on the ground, and you saw some eyes looking at you. Who were the eyes?
It's true. It was an interesting moment where the animals were confused and not knowing what to do. And I felt that I was, well, I was very alone myself for days, right? And it was getting difficult in that sense. And so I felt that I was communicating with the animals. And so there was this big Norwegian rat, which is not a house rat. It's an animal that lives only in the forest. And it was looking at me, and I felt we were communicating. It was asking, "What's happening, and what should we do here?" and I didn't know. Yeah, and as you mentioned, the reason why I slept outside is because it's safer outside. Like if you sleep inside a house, if the fire reaches the house, there's no escape possible because house fires are very hot. Whereas if I sleep outside and the fire reaches me, I can escape more easily because it's not as hot. So it's safer to sleep outside.
Pascal is something of a philosopher also, and he thinks about the big issues related to his own experience. So how can we live closer to nature without causing so much havoc and preventing nature's forces from dealing with fires in this case? What are you talking about in terms of how we go from here?
Well, yes. I think humility is a key thing. We have developed as societies to be more and more removed from nature, and we have control over nature, and we live in a very privileged area. So it's easy to feel disconnected from the reality of danger and suffering and difficulties. And I think that we need to find ways to get closer to that, so that we have a closer relationship to nature and we are better prepared for unexpected events. Because for most of our lives, everything is part of the script, and there's not really surprises. What Seifu described, the idea of having climate events and rain and drought that really affect subsistence food is something that we might never experience in our lifetime. But through his experience, we can learn and try to see how we can get closer to nature in a vulnerable way instead of trying to control it.
Thank you, Pascal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so this is probably the climax of the book in some ways. We actually have been working on a document about 20-25 pages that goes back and forth between Fire Chief Larkin describing day by day what's happening from the fire chief's perspective and Pascal's perspective. And then a ridge over is Last Chance Road, a private road where our friends Gina and Gardner live, and Gardner was actually the last person out of that road, and he was like basically rescuing his chickens and his record collection and barely made it out alive. He actually like drove through fire for like 7 or 8 minutes. Is incredible, and they're rebuilding now as well. So we've been piecing together these like 4 or 5 narratives of the events going on, mostly over a month, but even in the months afterwards. And then we've been reading about this Dutch photographer, Frans Landing, right? Who was walking around the redwoods there, the fire actually hit the old growth redwoods. It's incredible, how much we lost in that fire. So thank you so much for that, Pascal. And I think we're gonna shift over to, so around this time, we also started talking to people in Bangladesh. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that a little bit. And then we went to, like we said, COP26 in Scotland and met Ibrahim, who's going to speak with us today as well. I don't think Lipi has joined us from COP28. She is very late there. Oh, no, she is. Lipi is here, sorry.
Yeah, I joined. Hi,
Thanks,
Stephen.
Pascal.
Yeah,
So,
half an hour I joined here.
So first, let me just pull this up really quick. So first I got in touch with a guy named Prabal Barua from this organization called IPSA. Young people, oh wait, let's see if I can find it. Young People for Social Change, Young Power and Social Action in Bangladesh. And they do amazing work with displaced people. And of course, Bangladesh, as you guys know, is sitting on the Bay of Bengal, which is kind of funnel shaped and tends to produce cyclones or hurricanes very, very easily. And they're working with the displaced people there. There's a lot of water in Bangladesh. And first of all, it's great that Lipi is here. And we've been hearing, so we started listening to stories that Praval told us about. People who are, in Bangladesh, a lot of water's sort of draining through the multiple rivers that comes, that come all through Bangladesh, a very small and very populated area. And then, of course, the warming and rising sea brings water sometimes upstream, right? So there's kind of water from both sides, as one of our narrators said. We also met Lipi, who we have the pleasure of speaking with today. And Lipi Rahman is actually zooming in. Let's see if Lipi can hear us, first of all. Lipi, can you hear us? And
Yes, I can hear you. But is it
unmute
okay if
yourself? Let's see. Oh, I have to turn
is it
my
okay if I
volume
don't
up.
turn off? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It's a little bit echoey. Let's just test this out really quick. Is that going to help? Hi, Lipi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Hi, Jonathan and Steven. How are you?
Oh.
It's nice to see you. But is it okay if I don't turn on my video?
Sure. Whatever's better for you. Are you in Dubai today, Lipi?
Yeah, I've been here for last 1 week. I came here on 28th.
Excellent, excellent. So nice to hear from you. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Can you see our screen, Lipi?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm basically going to put up your website here. And if you want me to show anything, you're welcome to do that. But, so Lipi, maybe you could start off by introducing yourself and telling us about your grassroots organization and some of the work you do.
Yes. Yeah, this is my website, but can you please share some photos that I have shared with you? That would be okay, because this is not relevant that the
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you email them to me?
Through our storytelling session that I have sent you some photos. Okay, never mind.
Okay,
I can
I
start.
think I can do that. Yeah, I think I could do that. Yeah, but why don't you start telling us about your organization?
Don't worry, that I can go on. Hi, this is Lipi Rahman. That Stephen already introduced me. That my organization is Badabon Shangho. Badabon, it means that forest. That our organization based on the southeastern part and the coastal belt area. It is near the largest mangrove forest, and we started this organization in 2016. Before that, I used to work in the development sector since 2004, and I'm actually from this area. That's why me and one of my friends that Jonathan and Steven know, that Mamun, we both started this organization, because when we started this organization at the time that the a thermal power plant and other private and public industries were going, building were going on, and at the time land grabbing was a huge issue there, and that all the people were losing their lands to the land grabbers, because they are influential people, rich people, and they are powerful. But especially the women, they were mostly losing their lands, and at the time we started talking to them that how to get justice, that land rights for their, and how to get they had to sell their lands, but they had to get the fair prices, and this is how we started. And when we started talking to them, at the time there were trust issues, that why they would talk to us. But when we actually, as we were from that community, they when we started talking to them and they were getting the support, then we actually get along, and these groups were formed. And at the same time, we were saying that some of the women were getting the water they are going to different places to get the water. And at the time that we thought that this is one of the big issue that we need to work on, because that in that area, that yeah, sea level, the temperature is going very high and the sea level is rising, and the salinization is a very, very big problem there, because their livelihood is was changing, and that the people who actually used to cultivate their lands and agricultural system totally changed, and that male, especially male, they were losing their jobs. They did not have anything to do, and that's why they were migrating to the cities and urban areas, and women left behind with their children. And at that time, that the sometimes the husbands are not coming back and they're not sending money, that women have to take care of the children, and they used to take different jobs, and sometimes and all of them, most of the actually women are there, fisher folk women, the 70% women who actually do the fisher, the collect fish. But they are on the other hand, the other problem is they are not recognized as a fisher folk, because they are spending 12 to 14 hours in the saline water, but and doing other jobs, but they are not recognized as being not recognized as a fisher folk. They are not getting the services from the government and other service providers, and because they do not have the fisher folk curse. And also the other issues are there, that not having the fresh drinking water, that women and girls especially need the responsible to manage the water. And at that time, on the way, and it is happening in all over the world, who have this problem, that they are being harassed. Even there are cases that that girls are being raped on the way. And also that not having the fresh water, that women mostly drinking the saline water because they are keeping this water for their family members. And also that they are having the hypertension, kidney diseases, and mostly using this saline water or salty water, they are having the skin problems. And 90% of the elderly women have this uterine prolapses problems for having that um, there are gynecological problems are there. And also the other thing is that the child marriage and forced marriage are very much in it's increasing, because not only that, one woman said to me that we are not going to die for lack of food, we are going to die for not having fresh drinking water. Because that's why they are married of their girls, because I had no idea this can be a reason too, because they think that if it will be um, a less person or less burden to the water, fresh water. And also that school dropout is also a major issue there. And also that violence against women increased high by the intimate partner, and that male members are not around, and that time that other perpetrators all the time are they're in the opportunity. Also that trafficking, that girls and women who actually are going out for the jobs, and they are leaving their child in their parents or the grandparents care or lesser care, that sometimes they fall prey to that human trafficking. And also the girls who actually had to have to take jobs, like there are export processing zones in this area in Mongla, that I'm talking about this area named Mongla. And the other part of the country, that is they sometimes go to the urban area, Dhaka capital city, and at the time they are become the victim of trafficking. And these numbers of girls trafficking is increasing also. And also that Jonathan and I used to have stories that I shared with Jonathan and Stephen, that women who actually that they displaced in their home from the home for the river erosion and for the tidal surge for 12 to 14 times in their lifetimes. Also, now some of the women actually do not have their own home because the children grown up and they got married and they have their own veranda, or that is called, they now sleep in their older time. They are not having their own place to sleep, and because yeah, and these things are actually happening in due to this climate change. And Bangladesh is one of the countries that among at the most risk and climate change impacted country, and but that all the people are getting affected, but the most that women and girls are being affected, but they are the least contributor to this climate change issues. Yeah, that
Thank you,
is.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all that, Lipi. Yes. The stories of the mostly women that Lipi has been interviewing and sharing with us, as you can hear, as everyone can hear, all of the different levels that intersect here, right? First of all, there's land rights, right? So women often do not get land rights, and Lipi's organization helps advocate for women to get land rights, right? Then there, in the stories of an individual person, that's why I think it's so important to listen to these long stories in the first person. We see all of the different levels kind of intersecting, right? As you guys can hear here as well. So I just wanted to ask you one more question, Lipi, and as I think you can see, I think I have the right photos here. So I don't know if there's any specific one you want me to open, Lipi, I could do that. But in the meantime, we can see some of the faces of the people who Lipi talks to and works with. This is a grassroots organization. So Lipi, I'd like to just ask you one more question. And what are you doing at COP28? And what is your message for world leaders as they gather here in an oil-rich country?
Okay, I'm here. I'm not doing here much because I'm here with the organization called Arrow. It's Asian Research. It's an organization that we have doing the research on nexus between climate change and SRHR issues that women are affected. And here I'm talking about the research findings, and also that I'm attending and observing. I'm an observer here actually, and observing the situation, what's going on, and we are advocating for the finance and to discuss about the impact of the climate change on women and gender equality, and that gender responsive climate action actually. And that what I think that we need more gender responsive climate actions and more fundings for women, and to talk about more inclusion of women and girls in all the policy, and that national and international policies, and more investment, and to include women and girls into decision making processes, because we think that they have the traditional, and they have the understanding and traditional knowledge, and their knowledge should be recognized and valued, and their leadership also should be included in on climate adaptation, environment issues.
That's so important, Lipi. Thank you so much. I think that I think so many levels of what we face here dealing with climate change are best approached through women, who disproportionately are affected by so much. Thank you for taking the time to visit us and share with you your experiences, Lipi. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, it's being late, and I need to go. Bye, everyone.
You need to log off? Okay.
Yeah, I need to log off.
We will talk soon, Lipi. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Lipi.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go to COP26. Stephen, you want to talk a little bit? Our
do.
journey led us from the countries we've talked about and other people and other stories to Glasgow, Scotland for the COP26, the United Nations thing. Stephen will talk about that, and then I'm going to introduce an extraordinary person Ibrahim, we met there.
Yeah, exactly. And using as much time as possible to hear his story. So yeah, so we went to COP26, and as you guys probably know, just like at COP28 happening right now, you know, it's mostly so it's kind of three things. It's a gathering of world leaders. They were gathering in the blue zone, and we weren't allowed there. You know, you have to have like special passes there. And then there was the green zone. And by the way, I don't know if you guys followed the COP26 or 27 or 28 negotiations, but they were you know, very disappointing in terms of what happened in the blue zone and what didn't happen. You know, the people, basically the world leaders make a lot of beautiful statements on day one, and then and actually in the first few days, and then in the 3 days that precede that, they you know, or the week that follows that, they get out of all the statements that they promised in the first few days, right? Incredibly, it's pretty interesting to watch. Then there's the green zone. At least when we were in Scotland, there was. I'm not sure how they're organizing it. And this is a place where organizations and scientists and other people gather and talk about great ideas, and that's pretty cool. We walked around and talked to a lot of neat people talking about excellent technological innovations and just ideas in general, how to help people. And then the third, I think, big aspect of these gatherings is the street. Right. And Greta Thunberg was there with, like, you know, leading, you know, thousands of people through the streets. And we heard the most amazing array of speakers on the street right outside of the blue zone that you know, I mean, people, I mean, like indigenous people from the Amazon with, you know, and people from all over the world speaking on a stage, like right on the street. So I feel like and that's kind of what we were mostly there for, is to talk to people on the street. So we interviewed a lot of people. And while we were there, we went over to the University of Glasgow. And we were walking around, which museum was it called? But anyway, we met Ibrahim in a museum and started talking to him there. And Ibrahim does amazing work in Benin in West Africa, and he's joining us today from COP28. So I'm going to let Jonathan introduce Ibrahim.
Ibrahim,
And you can unmute yourself too, Ibrahim, and great to see you.
Ibrahim, unmute yourself and highlight him, the speaker.
Hello, yes. Hello, Jonathan. Hello.
Hi,
everyone.
Ibrahim. So if you'll all highlight or whatever to make Ibrahim full picture.
I'm trying to pin him, but it's not working actually.
Oh, that's a local thing anyway, so don't wait for us in the work.
Okay, anyway, Ibrahim, we met at a museum and he was.
Hello, can you hear
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
So Ibrahim has been working
Yes.
in Benin, West Africa, on a project, and he was speaking to the climate summit. He was speaking to the climate summit in Glasgow, and he was talking about a project that he's been working for and he's working on right now, which is called Takienta. And Takienta is an extraordinary way that the people in the indigenous people have been building homes and structures in a very, very hot place using only natural materials. And the structures need no air conditioning and they need no heating. And take it away, Ibrahim. Tell us about Takienta and your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I want to say that I didn't attend COP28, so I'm talking to you from Togo, in the north of Togo, and Togo is very close to Benin. And I am now at the Kutamaku site, the land of Batamariba people. The Batamariba mean that the people who built a house with head, you know. So we will talk today about Takienta. What are we doing to preserve these traditional building, and also what can we learn from this building to have some solution about climate change. So I don't know if it's possible to share the screen, and we can see some of picture, and I will tell the story of each of those picture.
Yes. Do you want to share your screen? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I sent you already the link of the presentation.
Oh, I see. I see. I'm sorry. Did you email it to me like today or something, or?
I did.
Oh, okay, good, good. All right, thanks. I didn't know that. Thanks. Let me pull that up really quick.
So while Stephen's doing that, tell us about the Takienta.
Takienta is the main element cultural of the Kutamaku. Kutamaku means the land where we can meet these people that we call Batamariba. Batamariba means that there are the people who build their house with earth. So Takienta is mainly connected, is an architectural house, is also artistic, also spiritual, and is very connected with universe, with human, and also with people who is already died, because the Takienta have all this space in one place.
Ibrahim, can you see the screen here? Is this the presentation?
Just a photo.
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry.
So we actually, I want to say something. We are going to play a video from Salita
Yes.
Solidarity.
Now
which
I can
shows
see the
pictures-
screen.
Which shows pictures of, it was filmed at the Takienta in Benin. So we can see those pictures just in a few minutes, but keep talking, tell us how this helps us
Yes.
understand how
Okay.
human beings can adapt to
So,
climate change.
yes, as you can see on the screen, this is the beginning of the construction of the Takienta. And so.
Okay. Would you like me to play it? Okay. Wait a minute. So these are these appear to be some slides.
Yes.
Tell me what you would like me to do, Ibrahim. Would you like me to show them one at a time?
Now is okay.
Okay.
Yes. So please, the picture, please.
Next picture.
Yes, this one.
Yes,
So
please.
you can see that, yeah, this is the beginning of the construction. This is the beginning of the construction of Takienta. And you can see that is very artistic and picture. And you can understand that all this is made by men and by women. As you can see, they bring all the materials from environment, and there is no need to use like transport, they don't know to use any modern materials to build the house. Everything is doing by hand, and everything is doing with men, women, youth, children, everybody bring something to build the Takienta. Next. Next, please.
Oh, can you? I clicked it. Can you not see the next one? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay.
Yeah, now on this. Okay, you can see that we are working with all of the key people who understand today how to build the Takienta. So we bring together the past generation, the old people and the youth people to allow them to teach each other how it's still possible to build these houses, because the houses is going to disappear because of modernization. Youth people don't want anymore to build the Takienta, but they want to build a new houses. So we organize many workshops and try to bring all these youth people to the heart of the knowledge of this traditional building. So those pictures are the result of our workshop.
Beautiful. So
also, you can, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so I want now to talk about what we can learn from the Tchan about climate change. You know, the main problem of climate change is the building materials. The building materials can be responsible for global warming about like 10 or 50%, you know. So if we can come back to the materials that Tchan has been using, we can reduce our impact on environment. You know, use only local materials, only ecological materials. And when it's hot outside, inside is cold. And when it's cold outside, inside is, so it's very bioclimatical houses. So there is no need to use electricity, because the big challenge of climate change is electricity. You know, if because people need electricity, people who need electricity are going to destroy environment to produce this electricity. In the Tchan, electricity to live in the Tchan is very houses who is very connected with environment and very connected with universe, connected with many things around the people who live inside Tchan.
So Ibrahim,
Next.
What would you say to the leaders of COP28 if you were there today? What would you tell them?
Yeah, there is no way to have solution without local people, without indigenous knowledge. You know, we have to come back. We have to come back to the local people. We have to come back to the traditional knowledge in the many ways, in the ways of building, the way of health, the way of transport, the way of everything. We have to come back to the knowledge of traditional people, like the people from Kutamaku, who is very connected from the universe, very connected from the environment. Everything is in the nature, you know, but you need to understand the nature and have many solutions in your daily life, you know. The leaders need to come back people and learn from them to have some solution about climate change.
Thank you. So I think we should thank you so much, Ibrahim. Yeah, Ibrahim is just, you know, a great example as he's talking about one of the big messages that I think we've learned talking to people is indigenous knowledge, right? You know, we're not going to technology our way out of this problem. You know, we're not going to science our way out of this problem. That's also part of the solution, though. You know, so it's a marriage of the smartest technological ideas with the smartest indigenous ideas that might come together to allow us to survive. I think we're going to conclude our presentation now and then have just a couple of minutes for a couple of questions for us or any of the presenters today. So thank you guys for all for coming. We're kind of at the end of the hour here. So. Yeah,
we'll extend it a few minutes if people have patience. We've got to get out because another group are coming to talk.
Exactly. So does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
You should tell the people online they can put something in the chat that they would put.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Thank you for.
Yes, please ask a question in the chat if you have one. Steve Binder said, inspired work and meaningful conversations. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
I was going to say those homes are like the adobe homes, so, and that they also fireproof and
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could hear her, but she said these homes, the Tchan, are like adobe homes here in New Mexico or Mexico in the Southwest. And they're labor intensive. They give people jobs, and it's also a cultural phenomenon where there's rhythm, there's dancing and music, and bringing all generations together to do it. And we were going to play a video of that as we leave. Does anyone have a question?
I think what you said, Jonathan, also about bringing people together to do it, like in all of these stories, like it's this sense that community has to come together to be able not only to find the solutions, but to like mitigate this immediate actions.
Mhm.
That, so, it's the act of connecting people, needs to continue that.
Absolutely, from
So-
Polito to solidarity.
Our book is called Last Chance Road. Because that's where the fire happened, and there's a very dramatic story among many dramatic stories in the book. But our journey has led us not from disaster to disaster to disaster, but to people who are resilient, to people who are coping, struggling, adapting. And our book actually has brought us a lot of sense of community. If we could reach out, as we have done, to people and many other people in our stories, it shows that community is something to hold on to, and it's something to build hope, so that it's not just one disaster after another, but a journey toward what we can do, toward what we call regeneration. And so, Stephen, do you have something you'd like to say at the conclusion, and then we'll play us out with
I just want to thank everyone for coming. And yeah, please keep, you're welcome to follow our work here. You can leave your name here on the sign-in sheet, and you can also sign in here on the website. And we wanted to conclude our presentation with a beautiful song that Jonathan and I kind of wrote the lyrics for, and Ibrahim, who's an amazing singer and guitar player, composed with his band in Benin. And I think I just successfully shared the sound with everyone online too, so you can hear this as well. So I think this will conclude our presentation.
Solito, solita. Solito à solidarité. Solito à solidarité. Solito to solidarity. Ah. Solito to solidarity. Solito à solidarité. Solito Solito to solidarity. Solito to solidarity. Parfois lorsque le monde semble s'effondrer, nous nous sentons effrayés, isolés, séparés, seuls, solito. Séparés, seuls, solito. Nous nous souvenons que nous ne sommes pas seuls face au changement climatique. Oui, nous pouvons unir toutes nos forces pour un monde solidaire. Solidaire, solidaire, solidaire. Solito, ah, aye kasawapa koleda kasawapa koleda kasawapa koleda solito solita. We are the children of regeneration. 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 Oh, eh. We are the children of regeneration. Oh.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, from joining us on Zoom, and all of our narrators from Africa, from Bangladesh, from Santa Cruz, and the book will be coming out next year, we hope.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye, Seifu. Take care. Bye, Ibrahim.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.